Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We're step by step, chapter by chapter, canto by canto. We're making our way back to Goloka Vrindavan after we've understood deeply who Krishna is. You can't get close to Krishna without understanding deeply who he is first. So, we've reached the fifth canto, and we'll begin the fifth canto today. But before we do, we welcome all of you out there in cyberspace. We're up to 1,404 followers by the grace of Facebook and the ether. Facebook couldn't exist if Krishna hadn't created the ether. Hare Krishna. Okay. We owe it all to him. Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Sotram by Srila Sanatana Goswami, the glories of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Sarva Shastra Dipi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths. You are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kolidvanduditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Padaya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mad Nistadaka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Sadutadayin Adini Chochata Kada Hanamunchakada Shinmam Premnarit Kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So, fifth canto is called the creative impetus. And we've just read the the beginning introduction, which by the way is the first canto in which Srila Prabhupada began to give a summary of the chapter before each chapter, following in the footsteps of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, his spiritual master. We should always follow in the footsteps of our spiritual master. That's the secret to being properly situated in spiritual life. Okay, chapter 1, canto 5, the activities of Maharaja, Priyavrata. Text 1. King Parikshit inquired from Shukadev Goswami, O great sage, why did King Priyavrata, who was a great self-realized devotee of the Lord, remain in household life, which is the root cause of the bondage of karma, fruitive activities, and which defeats the mission of human life? Purport. In the fourth canto, Shukadeva Goswami explains that Narada Muni perfectly instructed King Priyavrata about the mission of human life. The mission of human life is to realize oneself and then gradually go back home, back to Godhead. Since Narada Muni instructed the king fully on this subject, why did he again enter household life, which is the main cause of material bondage? Maharaj Parikshit was greatly astonished that King Priyavrata remained in household life, especially since he was not only a self-realized soul, but also a first-class devotee of the Lord. A devotee actually has no attraction for household life, but surprisingly, King Priyavrata enjoyed household life very much. One may argue, why is it wrong to enjoy household life? The reply is that in household life one becomes bound by the results of fruitive activities. The essence of household life is sense enjoyment. And as long as one engrosses his mind in working hard for sense enjoyment, one becomes bound by the reactions of fruitive activities. This ignorance of self-realization is the greatest defeat in human society, of human life. The human form of life is especially meant for getting out of the bondage of fruitive activities. But as long as one is forgetful of his life's mission and acts like an ordinary animal, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, he must continue his conditioned life of material existence. Such a life is called Sarupa Vismriti, forgetfulness of one's real constitutional position. Therefore, in Vedic civilization, one is trained in the very beginning of life as a brahmachari. A brahmachari must execute austerities and refrain from sex indulgence. Therefore, if one is completely trained in the principles of brahmacharya, he generally does not enter household life. He is then called a Naishtika brahmachari, which indicates total celibacy. King Parikshit was thus astonished that the great king Priyavrata, although trained in the principles of Naishtika brahmacharya, entered household life. The words Bhagavata Atmarama are very significant in this verse. If one is self-satisfied, as is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is called Bhagavata Atmarama. There are different types of satisfaction. Karmis are satisfied in their fruitive activities. Jnanis are satisfied to merge into the effulgence of Brahman. And devotees are satisfied to engage in the Lord's service. The Lord is self-satisfied because he is fully opulent. And one who is satisfied by serving him is called Bhagavata Atmarama. Manushanam Sahasreshu. Out of many thousands of persons, one may endeavor for liberation, and of many thousands of persons attempting to become liberated, one may achieve liberation from the anxieties of material existence and become self-satisfied. Even that satisfaction, however, is not the ultimate satisfaction. The jnanis and the karmis have desires, as do the yogis, but devotees have no desires. Satisfaction in the service of the Lord is called akama, freedom from desire, and this is the ultimate satisfaction. Therefore Maharaj Parikshit inquired, how could one who was fully satisfied on the highest platform be satisfied with family life? The word parabhava in this verse is also significant. When one is satisfied in family life, he is doomed, because he must already have forgotten his relationship with the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj describes how the activities of family life implicate one more and more. Atma patam griham andakupam. Household life is like a dark well. If one falls into this well, his spiritual death is assured. How Priyavrata Maharaj remained a liberated Paramahamsa even within family life is described in text 23 of this chapter. Text 2. Devotees are certainly liberated persons. Therefore, O greatest of the Brahmanas, they cannot possibly be absorbed in family affairs. Purport. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is said that by executing devotional service to the Lord, one can understand the transcendental position of a living being and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be understood by any means except bhakti. The Lord confirms this in Srimad-Bhagavatam 11:14-21. Bhaktyaham ekayagraya. Only by executing devotional service can one appreciate me. Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita 18:55, Lord Krishna says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Simply by discharging devotional service, one can understand me. Thus, for a bhakta to become attached to family affairs is impossible, since a bhakta and his associates are liberated. Everyone is searching after ananda or bliss, but in the material world, there can never be any bliss. It is only possible in devotional service. Attachment for family affairs and devotional service are incompatible. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit was somewhat surprised to hear that Maharaj Priyavrata was simultaneously attached to devotional service and to family life. Text 3. Elevated Mahatmas who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are fully satiated by the shade of those lotus feet. Their consciousness cannot possibly become attached to family members. Purport. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chanda Nushushitala Ye Chayaya Jagat Judaya. He describes the shade of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda as being so nice and cooling that all materialists who are always in the blazing fire of material activities may come under the shade of his lotus feet and be fully relieved and satiated. The distinction between family life and spiritual life can be experienced by any person who has undergone the tribulations of living with a family. One who comes under the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord never becomes attracted by the activities of family life. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2:59, Padam Drishtva Nivartate, one becomes detached from family life as soon as he comes under the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Text 4. The king continued, O great Brahmana, this is my great doubt. How was it possible for a person like King Priyavrata, who is so attached to wife, children, and home, to achieve the topmost infallible perfection in Krishna consciousness? Purport. King Parikshit wondered how a person so attached to wife, children, and home could become so perfectly Krishna conscious. Prahlad Maharaja said, Matirna Krishne Padataksato va mito vipadyeta griha vritanam. A grihavrata, one who has taken a vow to execute family duties, has no chance to become Krishna conscious. This is because most grihavratas are guided by sense gratification and therefore gradually glide down to the darkest regions of material existence, adanta gobir vishatam tameshram. How can they possibly become perfect in Krishna consciousness? Maharaj Parikshit asked Shukadeva Goswami to resolve this great doubt. Text 5. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, what you have said is correct. The glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is praised in eloquent, transcendental verses by such exalted personalities as Brahma are very pleasing to great devotees and liberated persons. One who is attached to the nectarian honey of the Lord's lotus feet and whose mind is always absorbed in his glories may sometimes be checked by some impediment, but he still never gives up the exalted position he has acquired. Purport. Sri Shukadeva Goswami accepted both of the king's propositions, that a person who is advanced in Krishna consciousness cannot embrace materialistic life again, and that one who has embraced materialistic life cannot take up Krishna consciousness at any stage of his existence. Although accepting both these statements, Shukadeva Goswami qualified them by saying that a person who has once absorbed his mind in the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead may sometimes be influenced by impediments, but he still does not give up his exalted devotional position. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there are two kinds of impediments to devotional service. The first is an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. This is called Vaishnava Aparad. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warned his devotees not to commit Vaishnava Aparad, which he described as the mad elephant offense. When a mad elephant enters a beautiful garden, it destroys everything, leaving a barren field. Similarly, the power of Vaishnava Aparad is so great that even an advanced devotee becomes almost devoid of his spiritual assets if he commits it. Since Krishna consciousness is eternal, it cannot be destroyed altogether, but advancement may be checked for the time being. Thus, Vaishnava Aparad is one kind of impediment to devotional service. Sometimes, however, the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee desires to impede one's devotional service. For example, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were formerly Jai and Vijay, the gatekeepers in Vaikuntha, but by the desire of the Lord they became his enemies for 3 lives. Thus, the desire of the Lord is another kind of impediment. But in both cases, the pure devotee, once advanced in Krishna consciousness, cannot be lost. Following the orders of his superiors, Swayambhuva and Lord Brahma, Priyavrata accepted family life, but this did not mean that he lost his position in devotional service. Krishna consciousness is perfect and eternal, and therefore it cannot be lost under any circumstances. Because the material world is full of obstructions to advancement in Krishna consciousness, there may appear to be many impediments, yet Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, declares in Bhagavad Gita 9:31, Konteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashati. Once one has taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, he cannot be lost. In this verse, the word Shivat Manam is very significant. Shivat Manam means the most auspicious. The devotional path is so auspicious that a devotee cannot be lost under any circumstances. This is described in the Srimad-Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself. Parthanaivehanā mudra vinashastis tasya vidyate. My dear Arjuna, for a devotee, there is no question of being lost, either in this life or in the next. Bhagavad Gita 6:40. In Bhagavad Gita 6:43, the Lord clearly explains how this is so. Tatra tam buddhisam yogam labate bhavatehikam yatate chatato bhuyak samsida kurunandana. By the order of the Lord, a perfect devotee sometimes comes to this material world like an ordinary human being. Because of his previous practice, such a perfect devotee naturally becomes attached to devotional service, apparently without cause. Despite all kinds of impediments due to surrounding circumstances, he automatically perseveres in devotional service and gradually advances until he once again becomes perfect. Bilvamangal Thakur had been an advanced devotee in his previous life, but in his next life, he became greatly fallen and was attached to a prostitute. Suddenly, however, his entire behavior was changed by the words of the very prostitute who had so much attracted him, and he became a great devotee. In the lives of exalted devotees, there are many such instances, proving that once one is taken to the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, he cannot be lost. Kontya pratijanihi nami bhakta pranashati. The fact is, however, that one becomes a devotee when he is completely freed from all reactions to sinful life. As Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita 7:28, Yesham twantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanir bhukta bhajante mam dridavrataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated and who are freed from the duality of illusion, engage themselves in my service with determination. On the other hand, as Prahlad Maharaj said, Matirna Krishna Padataksvato ba mito pipadyeta grihapratanam. A person who is too attached to materialistic family life, home, family, wife, children, and so on, cannot develop Krishna consciousness. These apparent contradictions are resolved in the life of a devotee by the grace of the Supreme Lord, and therefore a devotee is never bereft of his position on the path of liberation, which is described in this verse as Shivatamam Padavim. Text 6. Shukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, Prince Priyavrata was a great devotee because he sought the lotus feet of Narada, his spiritual master, and thus achieved the highest perfection in transcendental knowledge. With advanced knowledge, he always engaged in discussing spiritual subjects and did not divert his attention to anything else. The prince's father then asked him to take charge of ruling the world. He tried to convince Priyavrata that this was his duty, as indicated in the revealed scriptures. Prince Priyavrata, however, was continuously practicing bhakti yoga by constantly remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thus engaging all his senses in the service of the Lord. Therefore, although the order of his father could not be rejected, the prince did not welcome it. Thus he very conscientiously raised the question of whether he might be diverted from devotional service by accepting the responsibility of ruling over the world. Can't even rule over our Suchike, what to speak of the world. It's our position. Purport. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Paye Chekeba. Without serving the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava or spiritual master, no one has ever attained perfect liberation from material bondage. Prince Priyavrata regularly served the lotus feet of Narada, and thus the prince perfectly understood transcendental subjects in truth. Satatva. The word satatvaha means that Priyavrata knew all the facts about the spirit soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the relationship between the spirit soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that he also knew all about this material world and the relationship of the spirit soul and the Supreme Lord within the material world. Thus the prince decided to engage himself only in rendering service to the Lord. When Priyavrata's father, Swayambhuva Manu, requested him to accept the responsibility of ruling over the world, he did not welcome the suggestion. This is the symptom of a great liberated devotee. Even though engaged in worldly affairs, he does not take pleasure in them, but remains always absorbed in the Lord's service. While thus serving the Lord, he deals externally with worldly affairs without being affected. For example, although he has no attraction for his children, he cares for them and educates them to become devotees. Similarly, he speaks to his wife with affectionate words, but he is not attached to her. By rendering devotional service, a devotee acquires all the good qualities of the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna had 16,000 wives, all of them very beautiful, and although he dealt with each of them as a beloved husband, he was not attracted or attached to any of them. In the same way, although a devotee may enter family life and act very affectionately toward his wife and children, he is never attached to these activities. I remember once in a lecture, Prabhupada was talking on this subject, and he said, a Krishna-conscious, pure devotee husband will act externally like he's a hen-pecked husband. And then he raised his hand and he said, but internally, he doesn't care this much. And he closed his fingers. So that's it. We have to do our duties, and it's natural to feel affection for all living beings, what to speak of family members. But internally, we have to learn to be detached by watching and seeing the complications and the problems and this and that. And by knowledge, withdrawing ourselves internally from being attached. And then when it comes time to leave the body, then we can go peacefully. We won't be holding on to our, hospital bed. No, I'm not ready. No. This verse states that by serving the lotus feet of his spiritual master, Prince Priyavrata very soon attained the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. This is the only way to advance in spiritual life. As stated in the Vedas, Yasya tevi parapaktir, yata devi tathakaro, tasyaite katata yarta, prakashante mahatmanaha. If one has unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, the essence of all Vedic knowledge is revealed to him. Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6:23. A devotee always thinks of the Lord continuously. While chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the words Krishna and Hare immediately remind him of all the Lord's activities. Since his entire life is engaged in the service of the Lord, a devotee cannot forget the Lord at any time. Just as an ordinary man always engages his mind in material activities, a devotee always engages his mind in spiritual activities. This is called Brahmasatra, or meditating upon the Supreme Lord always. Prince Priyavrata was perfectly initiated into this practice by Sri Narada. Text 7. Sri Shukadeva Goswami continued, the first created being and most powerful demigod in this universe is Lord Brahma, who is always responsible for developing universal affairs. Born directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he dedicates his activities to the welfare of the entire universe, for he knows the purpose of the universal creation. This supremely powerful Lord Brahma, accompanied by his associates and the personified Vedas, left his own abode in the highest planetary system and descended to the place of Prince Priyavrata's meditation. Purport. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Self, Atma, is the source of everything, as explained in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmad Yasya Yataha. Because Brahma was born directly from Lord Vishnu, he is called Atma Yoni. He is also called Bhagavan, although generally Bhagavan refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, or Lord Krishna. Sometimes great personalities, such as demigods like Lord Brahma, Narada, or Lord Shiva, are also addressed as Bhagavan because they carry out the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma is called Bhagavan because he is the secondary creator of this universe. He is always thinking of how to improve the situation of the conditioned souls who have come into the material world, who have come to the material world to enjoy material activities. For this reason, he disseminates the Vedic knowledge throughout the universe for everyone's guidance. There's a chair over here, just right there, next to Uncle John. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, my pleasure. Least I can do. Vedic knowledge is divided into two parts, Pravriti Marg and Nivriti Marg. Nivriti Marg is the path of negating sense enjoyment, and Pravriti Marg is the path by which the living entities are given a chance to enjoy and at the same time are directed in such a way that they can go back home, back to Godhead. Because ruling over this universe is a great responsibility, Brahma must force many Manus in different ages to take charge of universal affairs. Under each Manu, there are different kings who also execute the purpose of Lord Brahma. It is understood from previous explanations that the father of Dhruva Maharaj, King Uttanapad, ruled over the universe because his elder brother, Priyavrata, practiced austerity from the very beginning of his life. Thus, up to the point of the Prachetas, the kings of the universe were all descendants of Uttanapad Maharaj. Since there were no suitable kings after the Prachetas, Swayambhuva Manu went to the Gandhamandani hill to bring back his eldest son, Priyavrata, who was meditating there. Swayambhuva Manu requested Priyavrata to rule over the universe. When he refused, Lord Brahma, heavy artillery, was brought in. Lord Brahma descended from the supreme planetary system known as Satyaloka to request Priyavrata to accept the order. Lord Brahma did not come alone. He came with other great sages like Marichi, Atreya, and Vashishta. Whoa! To convince Priyavrata that it was necessary for him to follow the Vedic injunctions and accept the responsibility of ruling over the world, Lord Brahma also brought with him the personified Vedas, his constant associates. The personified Vedas are like the how do you say? What's the word? Their court, his advisors, a significant word. So here you've got Narada's going to be there, Brahma's there, Swayambhuva Manu's there. That's 3 Mahajans right there. Shiva maybe have been there. 4. Then the personified Vedas and the main rishis. Talking about pressure. You think you guys have pressure? You think we all got pressure? This is pressure. A significant word in this verse is Swabhavanat, indicating that Lord Brahma descended from his own abode. Every demigod has his own abode. Indra, the king of the demigods, has his own abode, as do Chandra, the lord of the moon planet, and Surya, the predominating deity of the sun planet. There are many millions of demigods, and the stars and planets are their respective homes. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Yanti Deva Prita Devam. Those who worship the demigods go to their different planetary systems. Lord Brahma's abode, the highest planetary system, is called Satyaloka, or sometimes Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka usually refers to the spiritual world. The abode of Lord Brahma is Satyaloka, but because Lord Brahma resides there, It is also sometimes called Brahmaloka. Text 8. As Lord Brahma descended on his carrier, the great swan, all the residents of the planets named Siddhaloka, Gandharvaloka, Satyaloka, and Charnaloka, as well as great sages and demigods flying in their different airplanes, assembled within the canopy of the sky to receive Lord Brahma and worship him. So much for his solitary meditation. As he received respect and adoration from the residents of various planets, Lord Brahma appeared just like the full moon, surrounded by illuminating stars. Lord Brahma's great swan then arrived at the border of Gandhamandana hill and approached Prince Priyavrata, who was sitting there. Purport. It appears from this description that there are regular interplanetary travel between the planets of the demigods. Another significant point is that there is a planet covered mostly by great mountains, one of which is a Gandhamandana hill. Gandhamadana hill. Three great personalities, Priyavrata, Narada, and Swayambhuva Manu, were sitting on this hill. According to Brahma Samhita, each universe is filled with different planetary systems, and every system has a unique opulence. For example, on Siddhaloka, all the residents are very advanced in the powers of mystic yoga. They can fly from one planet to another without airplanes or other flying machines. Similarly, the residents of Gandharvaloka are expert in musical science, and those on Satyaloka are all great saints. The interplanetary system undoubtedly exists, and residents of different planets may go from one to another. On this earth, however, we have not invented any machine that can go directly from one planet to another, although an unsuccessful attempt has been made to go directly to the moon. Text 9. Lord Brahma, they were going to have a spacewalk in the space station that's out. It's just in the orbit of the Earth. And they had two ladies that were going to do it at the same time, and it was going to be a record. No, it's never been done before. But they had to cancel it because they only had one spacesuit. And how many billions and billions of dollars they're spending just to do that. It's grotesque, obscene. Okay. Lord Brahma, the father of Narada Muni, is the supreme person within this universe. As soon as Narada saw the great swan, he could understand that Lord Brahma had arrived. Therefore he immediately stood up, along with Swayambhuva Manu and his son Priyavrata, whom Narada was instructing. Then they folded their hands and began to worship Lord Brahma with great respect. Purport. As stated in the previous verse, Lord Brahma was accompanied by other demigods, but his specific carrier was a great swan. Therefore, as soon as Narada Muni saw the swan, he could understand that his father, Lord Brahma, who was also known as Hiranyagarbha, was arriving. Thus he immediately stood up with Swayambhuva Manu and his son Priyavrata to receive Lord Brahma and offer him respect. Text 10. My dear King Parikshit, because Lord Brahma had finally descended from Satyaloka to Bhuloka, Narada Muni, Prince Priyavrata, and Swayambhuva Manu came forward to offer him objects of worship and to praise him in highly qualified language, according to Vedic etiquette. At that time, Lord Brahma, the original person of this universe, felt compassion for Priyavrata, and looking upon him with a smiling face, spoke to him as follows. Purport. That Lord Brahma descended from Satyaloka to see Priyavrata indicates that the matter was very serious. Narada Muni had come to advise Priyavrata about the value of spiritual life, knowledge, renunciation, and bhakti, and Lord Brahma knew that Narada's instructions were very impressive. Therefore, unless Lord Brahma personally went to Gandhamadana hill to request Priyavrata, Lord Brahma knew that Prince Priyavrata would not accept his father's order. Brahma's purpose was to break Priyavrata's determination. Therefore, Brahma first looked upon Priyavrata with compassion. His smile and compassionate features also indicated that although Brahma would request Priyavrata to accept household life, Priyavrata would not be out of touch with devotional service. By the blessings of a Vaishnava, everything is possible. This is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as Kripa Siddhi, or perfection attained simply by the blessings of a superior person. One usually becomes liberated and perfect by executing the regulated principles set down in the Shastras. Nonetheless, many persons have achieved perfection simply by the blessings of a spiritual master or superior. Priyavrata was the grandson of Lord Brahma, and as joking competition sometimes takes place between grandson and grandfather, in this case also, Priyavrata was determined to remain in meditation, whereas Brahma was determined that he ruled the universe. Thus Lord Brahma's affectionate smile and glance meant, "My dear Priyavrata, you have decided not to accept household life, but I have decided to convince you that you must accept it." Actually, Brahma had come to praise Priyavrata for his high standard of renunciation, austerity, penance, and devotion, so that he would not be deviated from devotional service, even though he would accept household life. In this verse, one important word is sukta vakena by Vedic hymns. In the Vedas, there is the following prayer to Lord Brahma: Hiranyagarbha samavartatagre bhutasya jata patar eka asit. Brahma was received with the appropriate Vedic hymns, and because he was welcomed according to Vedic etiquette, he was very pleased. Text 11. Lord Brahma, the Supreme Person within this universe, said, "My dear Priyavrata, kindly hear attentively what I shall say to you. Do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord, who is beyond our experimental measurements. All of us, including Lord Shiva, your father, and the great sage Maharshi Narada, must carry out the order of the Supreme. We cannot deviate from his order." Purport. Of the 12 great authorities in devotional service, 4, Lord Brahma himself, his son Narada, Swayambhuva Manu, and Lord Shiva, I was right, were present before Priyavrata. They were accompanied by many other authoritative sages. Brahma first wanted to impress upon Priyavrata that although these great personalities are all authorities, they cannot possibly disobey the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described in this verse as Deva, which means always glorious. The power, glory, and potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be diminished. In the Ishopanishad, the Lord is described as Apapa Vidya, which indicates that he is never affected by anything materially considered sinful. Similarly, Srimad-Bhagavatam describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as being so powerful that nothing we might consider abominable can affect him. An example sometimes given to explain the position of the Supreme Lord is that of the sun, which evaporates urine from the earth but is never affected by contamination. The Supreme Lord can never be accused of doing anything wrong. When Lord Brahma went to induce Priyavrata to accept the responsibility for ruling the universe, he did not go whimsically. He was following the dictations of the Supreme Lord. Indeed, indeed, Brahma and other genuine authorities never do anything without his permission. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. In the beginning of Srimad-Bhagavatam, it is said, Te ne brahmarida ya adi kavaye. The Lord dictated Vedic knowledge to Brahma through his heart. The more a living entity is purified by devotional service, the more he comes in direct contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satadiyuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Lord Brahma, therefore, had not come to Priyavrata by his own whims. Rather, it is understood that he had been ordered to persuade Priyavrata by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose activities cannot be understood by material senses, and who is therefore described herein as aprameya. Thus Lord Brahma first advised Priyavrata to hear his words with attention and without envy. Why one is induced to perform certain acts despite his desire to do something else is indicated herein. One cannot disobey the orders of the Supreme Lord, even if one is as powerful as Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Manu, or the great sage Narada. All these authorities are certainly very powerful, but they do not have the power to disobey the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since Lord Brahma had come to Priyavrata in accordance with the orders of the Supreme Lord, he first wanted to dispel any suspicions that he might be acting as Priyavrata's enemy. Lord Brahma was following the orders of the Supreme Lord, and therefore it would be worthwhile for Priyavrata to accept Lord Brahma's order as the Lord desired. Text 12. One cannot avoid the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not by the strength of severe austerities, an exalted Vedic education, or the power of mystic yoga, physical prowess, or intellectual activities. Nor can one use his power of religion, his material opulence, or any other means, either by himself or with the help of others, to defy the orders of the Supreme Lord. That is not possible for any living being, from Brahma down to the ant. Purport. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 3.8.9, Yajnavalkya says to Gargi, the daughter of Gargamuni, Etasya va akshadasya prashasane Gargi Surya Chandramasao Vibhito tatashta. My dear Gargi, everything is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the sun, the moon, and other controllers and demigods like Lord Brahma and King Indra are all under his control. An ordinary human being or animal who has accepted a material body cannot go beyond the jurisdiction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's control. A material body includes senses. However, the sense activities of so-called scientists who try to be free from God's law or the laws of nature are useless. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.14. Mama Maya Duratyaya. It is impossible to surpass the control of material nature, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is working behind it. Sometimes we are proud of our austerities, penances, and mystic yogic powers, but it is clearly stated herein that one cannot surpass the laws and directions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, either by dint of mystic power, a scientific education, or austerities and penances. It is impossible. The word manishaya, by intelligence, is of special significance. Priyavrata might argue that Lord Brahma was requesting him to accept family life and the responsibility for ruling a kingdom, although Narada Muni had advised him not to enter household life and be entangled in material affairs. Whom to accept would be a puzzle for Priyavrata, because both Lord Brahma and Narada Muni are authorities. Under the circumstances, the use of the word manishaya is very appropriate, for it indicates that since both Narada Muni and Lord Brahma are authorized to give instruction, Priyavrata should neglect neither of them, but should use his intelligence to follow the advice of both. To solve such dilemmas, Srila Rupa Goswami has given a very clear conception of intelligence. He says, Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayun jataha nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchate. Vishayan, material affairs, should be accepted without attachment, and everything should be dovetailed with the service of the Lord. That is real intelligence, manisha. Becoming a family man or king in the material world is not harmful if one accepts everything for Krishna's service. That necessitates clear intelligence. Mayavadi philosophers say, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. This material world is false, and only the absolute truth is real. However, an intelligent devotee in the line of Lord Brahma and the great sage Narada, or in other words, in the Brahma Sampradaya, does not consider this world false. That which is created by the Supreme Personality of God, it cannot be false. But using it for enjoyment is. Everything is meant to be enjoyed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 5:29. Bhoktanam Jagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme proprietor and enjoyer, and therefore everything should be dovetailed for his enjoyment and service. Regardless of one's circumstances, favorable or unfavorable, one should use everything to serve the Supreme Lord. That is the perfect way to use one's intelligence. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What a purport. What an opening to this 5th canto, Bhagavatam. Okay, we're going to end right there. For those of you who haven't been around for a while, we got a new system here. We got 2 mics, so I don't have to start throwing it around the room. We got another mic. So here we are at that wonderful moment, the open mic period. So anyone who wants to reflect or discuss or question or anything, please be our guest. Hare Krishna. Yes, Suni Gopal, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
We missed you so much.
Me too.
I don't know what we've done without you. The atmosphere became immediately elevated as soon as you entered the room.
I am fortunate.
You think I'm joking?
I am fortunate.
You're not.
So Maharaj, verse number 12.
Unfortunately, your son left the room. It could be more elevated when he came. Okay, go ahead.
He had some homework, so he has to leave. So in that verse number 12, when Lord Brahma, says, "My dear Priyavrata, kindly hear attentively what I shall say to you. Do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord." So Priyavrata was engaged in the devotional service, meditation of the Supreme Lord. So why does he use that word? Don't be jealous.
Well, when we become jealous, we tend to think in terms of what we're doing, even if we're doing devotional service, or what appears to be externally devotional service. Devotional service is not an external activity. Devotional service is the state of consciousness. So he's just teasing him. This isn't like us talking to one another. This is Lord Brahma and Narada and even Priyavrata, the son of Uttanapad. These are such elevated souls, or Swayambhuvan, I'm sorry. Yeah, such elevated souls. So the level of their discourse, is very, very exalted, and they can say very subtle things, to tease the person, to almost joking, So he's saying, don't be envious of God. I'm here, can't you see? I'm here and I'm representing him and I'm asking you to do something. So you don't say no. If you say no, maybe you're going to be seen to be envious. It's like that. But and also, if we refuse to act according to the authority, then that can be interpreted very easily as envy. Envy is it has to be given up. Prabhupada explained to us that different inauspicious things can be dovetailed. Anger can be dovetailed. Even lust can be dovetailed by procreating Krishna conscious children, things like that. But envy can't be dovetailed, has to be given up. From the beginning, has to be given up. Therefore, from the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, it says, Nirmatsaranam satam, dharma kaitavo tra paramo, nirmatsaranam satam. So, cheating religion is kicked out if we can hear without envy and with honesty, to be honest, then our hearts become purified. And then we can understand what religion is and irreligion is, and know how to act and how to set the right example and teach others how to act properly. But I thought one of the interesting things, I'm just going to add my own little reflection here, one of those points that was made, that even sometimes someone may do something that it doesn't appear to be, proper, even especially at the beginning of spiritual life. Everyone comes to spiritual life with baggage from whatever. And even in Bhagavatam you'll see, and even in Chaitanya Charitamrita you'll see some mistakes being made. Gopinath Payanataka, in the Anjalila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he was a son of Bhavananda, who was the father of Ramananda Roy, one of the 5 Pandavas. And he was a government servant, and he was a tax collector, so he would take taxes and he'd take a little on the side, and use it to, have a good time, And he got caught, and he was raised onto the chunk by an envious relative of the king, or envious lower, He was underneath him, but he got envious, so he was going to kill him just to bring him down. That's what envy does. If somebody's doing nicely, then you find a way to bring him down. You can't say, hey, you're doing nicely, you're making some progress, nice, very good. That's lack of envy. But enviousness means you try to bring him down, spread rumors, and try to, just do something to bring the person down, rather than congratulate him coming up. So finally they came to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya said, what are you bringing it to me for? I'm a sannyasi. I don't have anything to do with pounds and shillings and taxes and all these things. Money belongs to the king, so what do you want me to do? You should pay him the money. He went back and forth and back and forth. Finally it was right to the point, it was right there, and he was ready, just about ready to fall off in the changa until that was the system. Up raised swords and a platform, and you just got pushed onto it, and then get sliced to death. And finally, someone came to the king who didn't know about this. The king wanted the money, but he was the family of Bhavananda Roy were very dear to the king. The king was a pure devotee of Lord Chaitanya, So see, all these things even go on among the eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya in order to show the example. And then what happened was, even though Lord Chaitanya wouldn't get involved, when it came to the king said, "What? No. I don't want his life. I just want the money. Take him down from the thing." And then he felt so bad that one of the pure devotees of Lord Chaitanya was going through this problem that he brought him near him. He gave him back his position. He paid him back all the money, gave him a raise, and paid him back the money that and gave him a wrapper. You know, in India they gave a silk wrapper, and that he's elevated in front of everyone. And then he said, "You are, devotees, pure devotees of the Lord." And then finally it got back to Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya would say, "My God, now they're going to all say something about me." That just because of me, this all happens. So, yeah, I mean, these things happen. So, Brahma's saying, to start with, before he starts, now don't be envious of God now. I'm going to ask you something to do, and don't forget who I am. I'm your father. And by the way, Garbhatak Shine Vishnu is my father. And I think you better do what I tell you, rather than coming, and, being, strong-armed. These are elevated persons. You don't have to strong-arm these persons, Something like that.
Thank you.
Something like that. Yes.
It's from Lily.
From Lily. Hi Lily, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. We read that one cannot avoid the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in text 12. Because we are not pure, are all of us constantly being dictated by Krishna through our hearts in the material world? Also, will we achieve true freedom when Krishna finally accepts us back into his kingdom?
Well, first of all, yes, we are always being guided by Krishna, but sometimes it's direct and sometimes it's indirect. Maya Dyakshina Prakriti Suyate Sachiracharam Hetunan Evakantiya Jagat Viparivartate. The whole material energy is being directed by Krishna. So even when things happen to us in the material world, it's being directed by Krishna. So Krishna is always directing us, but when we want to be free from his direction, then he directs us through the material energy. But you cannot become free from the direction. So your second question is, will we get real freedom when we go to the spiritual world? You're thinking real freedom means, now I can do whatever I want to do, whatever. But that's not the mentality that takes you back to Godhead. The mentality that takes you back to Godhead is, whatever you want, I want to do whatever you want. So you are controlled by Krishna in the spiritual world. You're not free. You are free, but you are guided by love. Whatever you do is done out of love, voluntarily, out of love. But you're never underneath the Lord. You're never out of underneath the control of the Lord. But in the material world, we try to do things ourselves, independently. Our constitutional position is to be a servant of Krishna. But when we're in the material energy, we're underneath his material guidance. And in the spiritual world, we're completely under his. I heard something very wonderful from Gopi Paranadana Prabhu. I will share it with you. He said that in the spiritual world, the perfection of household life is that all the family members love Krishna more than their own family. Every single family member loves Krishna more than their own sons and daughters, but they still love their sons and daughters. Family life is there, and it's even more blissful than here. But all of them love Krishna more, and that's the secret. That's what's going to come out later in this. How Priyavrata can be looking externally looks like even an attached householder, But inside, he's completely in love with Krishna, and he's not forgetting him for one moment. And therefore, he, in the end, anyway, I don't want to spoil the story. I'll wait till it unfolds naturally. Yes, Gopal.
In the purport, in 10th verse, Prabhupada was saying that Thakur Bilva Mangala was devotee in the previous life.
Yeah.
Is there any reference to that? Do you know more about that?
I mean, I remember that he was a brahmana in his past life, and also therefore he was a brahmana in this life. So don't think that just because you're a brahmana you get relieved from the temptation of going to a prostitute. That can happen to anybody at any time. But then, by his good fortune, because of his previous devotional service, the prostitute, after he went to her, and it's a big problem, rain and raging river, and he crossed, and anyway, there's a whole story how difficult it was, and he got there, and she had boarded up the place. She thought, oh, he's not going to come tonight, surely. And he came, and she said, I mean, you're so attached to this bag of bones and whatever, and if you were that attached to Krishna, you would be a great saint. And then that reminded him of who he was, and he just gave it up immediately. And so her name was Chintamani, and in Krishna Karnamrita, his Mangalacharana prayers first of all glorifies her. Right on the same, Somagiri, his initiating spiritual master, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is his instructing spiritual master, because he went to Vrindavan and met Krishna face to face. But he gave her Chintamani was his Pradashina Guru, because she sent him in the right direction. So he gave her equal billing, so to speak, equal billing, the same verse, Chintamani, Somagiri, and Krishna. This is real pure devotional service, giving full benefit, Yasadevi Purab Bhaktir Yatati Vittaguru. Your spiritual masters, you're out there and somewhere, and some brahmachari gives you a book, and it just happens to be the right book, and it wakes you up, and you come to the temple and become a pure devotee. That devotee who gave you that book is your Vartman Pradashika Guru, and you should worship them on the same level as your Guru. But we're all, anyway, I won't go what happened. When neophytes do other things, but that's the reality. So we should always look for that. We should always look for the good. Anybody who's coming to Krishna consciousness, we should look for that. That's an exalted position. Out of how many billion people in the world today? 7? 7 plus. Yeah, 7 plus. And how many are actually doing what we're doing? Coming together every day and hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam and trying to understand and relish Krishna consciousness together like this. Is rare souls. We should never forget that. From the newest to the oldest. Yes?
We have 2 different questions.
From cyberspace?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, come in. Houston calling. Houston calling. They're out there in cyberspace. Houston. Come in, Houston.
Arindama Das says, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Krishna says, out of thousands of people, one will be able to understand the science of self-realization, and out of those men, one will know my true nature. Why is that the case? Does this mean devotional service is by the will of the Lord, or His mercy extended for us by use of our free will to execute devotional service?
It means that devotional service is the most difficult thing. Pure devotional service is the most elevated and most difficult thing to achieve. Therefore, naturally, the fewest people will achieve it. How many people on the earth will get a gold medal for running the 100-yard dash every year? 1. So, Manushanam sahasrishu kaschit yaditi siddhye. Out of many millions of men, one will even think about achieving perfection. They just think they're trying to become, but they're just speculating. But those who are sincerely trying to search for the absolute truth, among those who have achieved success, siddhanam, that means they know they're not the body, not just intellectually, but they perceive that they're not the body, is very rare. And out of millions of those, hardly one can understand Krishna in truth. Truth means that they fully accept Krishna and have fully surrendered to Krishna. But Lord Chaitanya, Krishna is so kind that he comes in the form of Lord Chaitanya and he gives this facility to anyone who's willing to listen. But even then, as Lord Chaitanya says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, even then I think some people will reject. Next.
From Rati.
Hey Rati, Hare Krishna.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Today we heard about a situation in which two exalted personalities gave apparent opposing orders. In the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, he also gave different orders to different people in different situations. Sometimes devotees got, and still get, confused on how to apply his orders. Do you have any particular experience which comes to mind in regard which you would like to share? And how was it solved?
It requires spiritual intelligence. When Arjuna brought Ashwatthama before Draupadi, Ashwatthama had killed Draupadi's sons in the sleep, the most heinous act that you can do. And when Arjuna left to catch him, he told Draupadi, I will bring his head and you can take your bath standing on it. And she said, all right, because she's a Kshatriya lady. So Kshatriyas are. She said, yes, all right. But then when he actually brought him in front of her, she said, oh, he's a Brahmana, his mother, I don't want his mother to feel like I do, so we can't kill him. And Bhima said, kill him at once. So Arjun was Krishna on one side, Bhima, Draupadi, the wife on the other, what to do. So then he put it to Krishna. And he said, you have to satisfy both. So he gave him spiritual intelligence. How do you get the spiritual intelligence? Tesham, we heard it at least 10 times in the last 2 chapters. Tesham sadati yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. You have to serve Krishna with love. Not out of rule, not out of regulation, but out of genuine love. You have to, and not just all the time, but satatam, constantly. And then Didami Buddhi Yogamtam. Krishna gives you the intelligence how to come back from. So Krishna gave intelligence to Arjuna. And he what he did was he cut his, he had a special jewel in his head and fancy hair and everything. He just cut it all, made him look ugly, and then exiled him. Cannot come back into human society. And he's still wandering somewhere. But he was an exalted person because he's going to become Vyasadeva in another Kali Yuga. In one of the next Kali Yugas, he'll become Vyasadeva. Because he was the son of Dronacharya. He was a very exalted person. So it goes to show you that, it takes spiritual intelligence how to deal with different situations. And you can follow seemingly contradicting orders with intelligence, with spiritual intelligence. So just because devotees get confused and can't do that, that doesn't mean it cannot be done. It has to be done eventually. We have to learn to do that. So Priyavrata, I'm giving away a little bit here, Because what's going to happen is he's going to follow Brahma, his grandfather, and Narada Muni, who is his spiritual master, and he's surrendered him already, becomes ecstatic. So he gets the blessings of both. And therefore he does the household chore or the taking charge of the universe, and at the same time he doesn't lose his devotional life. He doesn't lose his Krishna consciousness. That's the whole point of the story. So yeah, we have to get spiritual intelligence to be able to navigate through all the contradictions of this material world. But eventually, that spiritual intelligence is to do whatever you're doing, and that's why Anasaktasi Vishayan came up at the end of the purport, at the end of the chapter, at the end of the purport. That was the rule he came into his mind. Anasaktasi, use everything in Krishna's service. That is true renunciation. It's strong renunciation. If you give up things because that can be used in Krishna's service, or that can be connected with Krishna, then that renunciation is weak. Palgu vairagya, and it will not stay. It will not be firm, and it will not stay. So that intelligence depends on our good fortune. Krishna wants every one of us to do that, and he's willing to give that intelligence to anyone and everyone. But we have to earn it. We always, making the point about how we have to be this and we have to be, the Lord has to be, test the spiritual master, test the authority, test Krishna, but we have to be tested also. We have to act in such a way that Krishna will give us the intelligence, and Krishna will choose us and take us back to Godhead. And that instruction is given in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad Gita. If we follow it, we will always be protected, even when we come in contact with ignorance. Okay, that's it, kids. It's oh my God, it's 8 o'clock. My, how time flies when you're having a good time. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Priyavrata Maharaj ki jai. Lord Brahma ki jai. Swayambhuva Manu ki jai. Lord Shiva ki jai. Narada Muni ki jai. Whew. See you tomorrow at 6:30, same time, same place, same station.